welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I am senior editor Ashley Giordano, and I'm here in the field at the BC Overland Rally in Merritt, British Columbia, with a very special guest, Emily Miller, founder of the Rebelle Rally. Thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. I know we've alluded to the Rebelle Rally in some other podcast episodes. Scott interviewed Rochelle Croft and Nina Barlow, and we did another podcast after the most recent Rebelle Rally, but I am so stoked to have you here to give us a more intimate look at the Rebelle and yourself and why you founded it and what it's all about. So,
right. Yeah. I had fun watching the last one. I think Matt Scott, you and Matt had just finished it, and we're talking to Scott. It's really fun to be on the other side watching it, hearing what you had to say.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
This content is brought to you by Overland Journal, our premium quality print publication. The magazine was founded in 2006 with the goal of providing independent equipment and vehicle reviews, along with the most stunning adventures and photography. We care deeply about the countries and cultures we visit and share our experiences freely with our readers. We also have zero advertorial policy and do not accept any advertiser compensation for our reviews. By subscribing to Overland Journal, you're helping to support our employee-owned and veteran-owned publication. Your support also provides resources and funding for content like you are watching or listening to right now. You can subscribe directly on our website at overlandjournal.com.
You want to come back, right?
Of course. Yes. Yeah. It's awesome. It was good because I think Matt and I were both like, there's some questions that we were asking each other on that podcast. And we're like, it would be nice to have Emily here too.
I heard that a couple of times. Yeah.
So now we're here. So it's great. But maybe we'll dive first into, for those who don't know what the Rebelle Rally is, maybe you can explain what it is. Where does it take place? What does it involve?
The Rebelle Rally is the longest competitive off-road rally in the United States. And it just so happens to be for women. It actually, this year, it's going to start back in Lake Tahoe. Last year, we were at the Hoover Dam. Goes through Nevada, California. We've touched Arizona. Takes place on primarily public land. It is 10 days. It's 8 days of scored competition. It's no GPS, no cell phones, just maps that we make. You don't even bring your own maps. You just show up with a compass and, some pencils and some patience and a lot of electrolytes. 8 days of literally using traditional navigation skills and then also traditional rally skills, which is using a road book. It is long, it's hard, it's hot, it's cold, it's high elevations, low elevations, every type of terrain. But interestingly, it's in a stock manufacturer vehicle. It's not in a race car. I've always said the vehicles in your driveway are more capable than you think. And so it's a team of two, driver and navigator. You can switch roles, and your car, that's it. You're on your own.
What type of vehicles are usually rallied in?
Well, we have two classes. We have 4x4 and what we call X-Cross, because the word crossover, I don't think sounds cool enough for some of these cars because they're great cars. And so what's typical are, let's say, Jeep, like Jeep Rubicons, Toyota Tacomas, 4Runners, Gladiators, Land Rovers. We have in the X-Cross class, we have everything from Porsches, Subarus, Mitsubishi, Kias, pretty wide variety of cars, but they're really unmodified vehicles or just minimally modified vehicles. And then we also have electric vehicles. So we started that 3 years ago now, and we launched it with the Rivian, the R1T, which was really cool. Last year we had, and also the Volkswagen ID4. And then this year we have 2 Rivians returning and possibly some surprise EVs.
Why was it important to you to highlight the stock vehicle in the rally?
I raced cars for a guy named Rod Hall, who's just a legend in off-road racing and also in 4x4s. And he really promoted stock manufacturer vehicles. He was really a champion of these stable platforms that all this research has been done on them. All this great engineering has gone into them. He always said, the mark of a great driver is that you can pilot a stock manufacturer vehicle without breaking it. And you need to do that first. And so I really felt that that's important. Also, not everybody wants to or even can afford to support a race truck. Race trucks are really expensive. They're really temperamental. It's constant work in progress. The vehicles that we have are already so great. So I really wanted it to be for stock manufacturer vehicles. I also wanted women to feel like they could participate. That they didn't have to, they could do this incredible journey and they could be part of it, but not feel like they had to go spend, $100,000+ on a racetrack. People drive the vehicle that, they drive to work every day in the rally, and then they drive it home, hopefully if they drive it well. But yeah, I think it's really important because they're so good, and they're so capable.
Yeah, and you know that really well because of your background as a racer and a rallier, and you were the first solo woman to complete the Vegas to Reno race.
Yeah, I was the first woman to solo that race, and then I did it again when it was a 3-day rally, and that was awesome. I really like longer competitions. Short ones are great, but really like pushing yourself over day after day is really, I think, kind of what I was made for. And it's like a strategy. Rod had a statement. He said, you want to win as slowly as you can. You still want to win, but as slowly as you can. And it's true. So it's kind of like this chess game of strategy, over long distance races.
Right. You saw that in Baja 1000 wins and multiple podium finishes, and you participated in some rallies in Morocco as well. What is it on those long distance rallies or races? Like, where do you get the motivation to push beyond what you think you're capable of? Because I see that with you in different forms, like on the rally or racing or rallying. Like, where does that come from? How do you beat the fatigue and go into that next phase of push?
I think it's because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know that there's a stopping point. So I say, you can do anything for 10 days. You can do anything for 14 days. I know it's not going to last forever. Now, it might be different if somebody said, okay, well, your rally's going to last 2 years, But I think you can do anything that you set your mind to. I'm a pretty competitive person, but I'm competitive with myself. I really like to dig down deep, examine the task at hand, and I always feel like that competition is within myself. I need to do the best job I can until the very last second. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe from my mom, when I was a kid. She taught me how to play cards when I was about 4. So she'd have somebody to play against, and she'd never let me win. And she'd just make me keep playing. Yeah, I think it's just determination. I hate to quit. I really hate to. So I don't know if that really answers.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah. But you have to dig down deep. I mean, the days are long. But I think when you have a challenge and you have a competition, if you're a competitive person, you see the task at hand. So you don't give up or you don't stop until it's completed.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you about your childhood, if there were any indications, or your teenage years, as to what was going to happen next or in your future, or the Rebelle Rally, or teaching women to drive and all those things.
I think there are just a number of things in my life that led me on the path. And also, I always feel like wherever a door has closed, a window has opened. And I've gone through the window. I'm more afraid to say no than to say yes to something. And I think that's something about the Rebelle. I think the women that you see who do the Rebelle are more afraid. They're kind of nervous to do it, but they're more afraid to not do it than to do it.
When you initially were going to start the Rebelle Rally, what were some examples of people saying no to you and you jumping through that window? I'm sure there are quite a few.
Yeah, there were a lot. First, I called a race director that I've known for a long time. I used to race in this series, asked him to get involved, to be involved in the competition. And he said, no way. He goes, because you'll never pull it off. You will never hold a long distance rally in America.
Why?
Permitting. Yeah. And I tried to explain, it's not a race for speed. And he said, I don't care. If you use the word rally, you will never pull this off. So I knew that we needed to educate land management agencies about what rally is, because rally in other parts of the world is really popular, but not in America, really. They only think race for speed, tearing up the landscape. I knew that wasn't the way it is. Another one, my course director, Jimmy Lewis, Jimmy's a legend, and a legend in the moto world and in the rally world. Rod had gotten Parkinson's disease, and he was helping me with the course, and I knew that I needed somebody who was like Rod, who, knew these trails and knew the backcountry, because I couldn't do it by myself. So I approached Jimmy, and I thought, there's no way he's going to say yes. No way. We had worked together on different events like King of the Motos, and he said, Emily, there's no way you're going to be able to do this. But if you are able to do it, I want to be involved. I said, well, I'll give you a call. So I gave him a call and said, okay, we can do it. But yeah, that happened a lot. Doesn't happen really anymore. But it really did happen a lot. And the good thing is I knew I own a sports marketing company, and I've produced a lot of really tough to pull off events. because, I worked a lot with Red Bull too, and they always do these crazy, great productions. And, they come up with a crazy idea and then they make it happen. And that was so fun to be a part of. I knew that it wasn't illegal to do what we were doing. It was just going to be a lot of hard work. For anybody who knows me, I'm not afraid of working hard. And so we overcame that.
How did you approach the land management crew to get this going?
What we did the first year is we said, let's get routes that we know have been raced on before, have had events on before, and we can string them together into a long distance route. Because, our routes are usually about 2,500 kilometers. They're long distances. What I did is I started about 3 years early putting together the plan. And then I started 15 to 18 months prior to going and sitting down with land managers for the Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest Service, national parks, and educating them about what this is, but also what it isn't. And we walked in with like a 18-page operations plan, and we hadn't even planned the course. And saying, here's what we're going to do. Here's what it is. Here's our safety. Here's our communications. Here is how we are going to manage it. And every time they said, well, what about this? We had an answer.
Right.
So fortunately, from producing big events, I knew what all the sticking points are. So I could go in early. We pre-anticipated. So what we did is we did a lot of legwork. I think that a lot of times land managers or land management agencies get a bad rap, but they have a lot of constituents to answer to. And not everybody wants vehicle recreation out on our trails, which is unfortunate. By doing that work early and we getting to know the land managers, we were able to build really good relationships. And so I feel really fortunate that a lot of the people in the land management agencies, that's how they get out and they check the trails. Or in vehicles. They have to get out into these remote areas. We help them. We will call and say, hey, there are signs down. We'll drop pens. Here's a problem area that they might not know about because they have so many miles, so many kilometers of trail and track to keep up with. We just see ourselves as a good steward. We need to be a good steward and a good partner to the agencies. But it took a long time. We tried the first year to go down a really famous trail in Death Valley. And Death Valley said, no way. Because the last rally that had been there made a lot of promises and didn't keep them and caused a lot of damage. And so we had to prove ourselves. So we took 4 years till we could go into Death Valley. And then last year on our 6th year, we were able to do this trail. It takes patience.
Yeah, that trust relationship is over time, working with them for multiple years and proving yourselves and committing to tread lightly principles, which I know that you're really passionate about on the rally and off the rally as well.
We have a responsibility, but we also can never let up. We can never take it for granted. We always have to stay in front of them, and people turn over as well.
Right.
And so we constantly have to go back to the agencies and sometimes reintroduce ourselves.
So this event takes place in the Southwest, which is the perfect place for it. Scenery, roads, everything. It's beautiful. And the inspiration from it came from your rally experience in Morocco. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say it's like a combination of all my experiences because I love the West. I competed in the Rally des Gazelles in Morocco. And it was really interesting because we were the only American team when we went over. It was conducted in French. It was really a cool experience. And I had been wanting to compete in the FIA World Championships of cross country rally, but that's a really big undertaking. I had family members who lived in Africa, and they had seen the end of the rally and they said, hey, you need to know about this. You should go do this. And it was at the time I was racing for Rod. And so he said, yeah, you should do it. And that'll be great experience for what you want to accomplish over there. Went and did it. It was similar in length, which are what you'll find is the cross-country rallies are usually 7, 8, 9, 10-day events. So that's pretty typical. But it was really interesting. It was shortest distance. Literally, you had to drive a straight line over everything in your path. If there's a big rock, you have to just go just around it or go right over it. It was really different. I thought it was a really great experience, and you didn't have to be a pro racer. You didn't have to have a race car, and it's very slow. You didn't need to know how to drive fast. We worked to bring a lot of American teams over there and then help them with their marketing. Really, it was pretty cool because we took a lot of teams that didn't come from a racing background, and they did really well. Like Rochelle Croft, Rebecca Donaghy, the Howens, a lot of great people in the industry, but not necessarily from racing, and some people not from the industry at all. Because driving and navigating are skills anyone, they just need to take the time and learn like the great foundation of great skills. And then we started the Rebelle, and we actually put it 6 months off the Gazelle. So if you wanted to compete in both, the Gazelle is a big undertaking. It's expensive. It's a long period of time. So we put our rally in the fall. But I wanted to do something in the United States because it's a big stretch to go from never having competed. It's expensive. It's long. You're in a foreign place. It's really cool to see. You can rent. You can rent, or you can ship your truck over, which means being without your truck for about 4 months. That's why renting is great. I wanted people also to have a rally in the U.S. because honestly, our terrain is the greatest. I've been to a lot of countries. I've seen so much terrain, but our terrain in the West is off the hook. To think that you can go from Death Valley to, Mount Whitney within such a short distance as the crow flies, and the variety of terrain is out of this world. And I wanted a different format. I wanted to make a really interesting competition, but really fun driving, not just driving straight. It's a cool challenge to do that, but I really wanted it to be more like fun rally driving. And I also just think the Rebelle, we call it a triathlon of rally. So there are multiple formats because I want people who do the Rebelle to come out of that rally and have like really good skills and feel like they can go take on whatever challenge they want to take on.
Like in life.
Generally. Yeah. Or other rallies, or in life, or in work, or they want to go do the Gazelle, or they want to go do the Rally Jamil, or they want to, go do the Carta rally. That they have that foundation. And it's fun to listen to the competitors who've done that and see them get that experience.
And a special thanks to this week's sponsor, GCI Outdoor. Whether you're heading out for a weekend of adventure in the woods or to your backyard fire pit, GCI Outdoor gear is ready for whatever you have planned. GCI Outdoor has been around for 25 years, so they know what they're doing when it comes to the best in portable recreation gear. GCI has innovative products ranging from outdoor rockers to complete camp kitchens and everything in between. And with a limited lifetime warranty, they stand behind everything they make. GCI Outdoor gear is comfortable, durable, and built for adventures, big and small. Try them out for yourself. Head over to their website at gcioutdoor.com and save 10% off your first purchase when you sign up for their email list. Thanks again, GCI.
So for our podcast listeners, what are some tips and tricks that they can implement right away to improve their driving skills?
Turn off your phone, put your eyes down the road, look through your corners, think about the line you're picking, and manage your throttle. Really work on being smooth on your throttle and your brake. Stop driving and drive. Put it into manual. Unless you're driving in manual, put it in manual mode. Use your gears. Feel your car. Check every button on your car and every light on your dashboard and make sure you understand what it means. Get to know your own vehicle. I think that there's a lot people can do, even to train for driving off-road better, they can do on the pavement. Because throttle control, line choice, and eye placement is a fundamental skill, whether you're on pavement or whether you have a lower traction situation. Also, classes, there are a lot of great classes. There are a lot of great instructors. People can go on our website and go right to Rebelle U, to our training page, and we have a list of trainers that we know that have great programs all across, the country, from the Northeast, Pacific Northwest, Arizona, DC, and California. So join a four-wheel drive club. Start by the simple things. You don't have to take a class to become more present with your vehicle. I always say, too, you're either reinforcing good or you're reinforcing bad. Not anywhere in between, really. So be really present when you're driving.
I have found throttle control to be one of the most effective means of improving my driving. And I learned that from Rochelle Croft, which she probably learned it from you. I think she did. She said she did. Yeah, it made a huge difference. Treating your vehicle like you're dancing and you want to be nice and smooth instead of kind of blasting over everything. It makes a big difference.
It does. I do say that it should be like a dance. And you can also really calm your nerves, and by literally a smooth throttle, you get into a tense situation in sand dunes. If you just smooth out your throttle, you'll find I need to calm down, and it'll calm my throttle down. Well, if you just calm your throttle down, It'll calm your emotions down. It's really an important skill.
Do you find that a lot of women say, I really want to do the Rebelle, but I'm intimidated by the vehicle or the driving or navigating? What do you say to that? Because I kind of feel that way. I'm like, I don't think my driving is good enough to be able to compete, or the mornings are super early and I'm afraid that I'm not a morning person. I'll be like sleeping. And
we have quite a few women who say, oh, I'm not ready. I need to be better at this. Oh, I want to train longer. But sometimes you don't really even know what you're training for. I just say, like, go to the website, read those skills, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. You know, if you're a 3, dive in, or if you're not a 3, go learn those skills and dive in anyway. Rochelle Croft has a great statement that I always use: start somewhere. You are probably better than you think. What I hear a lot from women is they really doubt themselves, their skills, or they don't think their skills are as good as I think they are, I see men who have a lot more confidence in their skills. They also don't see a mistake as a failure. And I see women, and this is not all women, it's just I've gotten to coach thousands of people to drive off-road. I stopped counting at about 5,000 people. And so I've seen the differences between men and women when I coach them. Really, it's very interesting to see women make a mistake and they dwell on it because they feel like it was a failure. But it's really just a chance to learn. We're not supposed to be perfect at something we've never done before, or we've only done a little bit. I know, crazy, huh? If I could get women to just have a little bit more confidence in the skills that they already have, you just self-talk. Tell yourself that, you have the skill, or you can learn the skill. But I do find that women tend to be better than they give themselves credit for. In fact, often a lot better. In class, I coached for a lot of years with Rod, and we would run about 50 people a week through class. The women, if we had women even show up for class, we'd have 24 people per class, almost always all male, and it was open to men and women. But very few people signed up, even though they had an opportunity through their work to come to class. But the women who did come to class, they'd stand kind of in the back the first day and just listen, not say much, really intimidated often, but then they'd listen really well. And so the second day, their driving skills were great. Everybody in class always loved it when women were in class because they listened well and they followed instruction well, and they just wanted to follow the rules, But that's one reason why I wanted to start the Rebelle, is because I knew that if we opened up class, or we opened up Rebelle to anyone, we would have a lot of men sign up. I know that because I have usually at least, a couple of men each week call and say, hey, when are, you going to let men compete, or when are you going to do a Rebelle format for men? And then I knew that maybe 1 or 2 teams of women would sign up, just like it is in a lot of motorsport type events, and we wouldn't get anywhere. And so, women are great drivers and navigators, better than they give themselves credit for.
How do you think you switched that in your brain? Because you were talking about positive self-talk or reinforcing that. Like, what goes on in your brain? Because mine, it's always been this way, where if I make a mistake, I'm like, oh, this is an utter failure. On the first try, it's something I've never done. Why is this? Why isn't it perfect? Like, how do you break that cycle?
I think I break the cycle by, I love to be coached. I don't expect to be perfect at something right out of the gate. I really like to learn. I think if you can break it down and just say, like, I'm not supposed to be perfect at this. Tell yourself that I'm going to learn more by making some mistakes early. I also find that the ones who make mistakes early are the ones who tend to learn more. Right. If you do it right and you do it perfectly right out of the gate, you think you're really good, but you're going to eventually make that mistake. And sometimes a little more devastating when you make it later, so make it early. But I also think that it's really good to go get coaching, and get coaching from someone who's great. I always say, if you want to be okay, learn from okay. You want to be good, learn from good. You want to be great, learn from great. And then ask really honest questions of your performance. Be really honest with your coach about how you learn best, and then work through it with a coach. A great coach, too, will give you positive reinforcement, and really when you do something well, and clear direction when you don't. And I think that can help.
That's good advice. Yeah, that's really good advice. I'm going to go implement that. I wanted to jump back to Morocco just for a minute. What was your experience in Morocco when you were off of the rally? Because you've spent some time doing various things there. What were the highlights?
Highlights about Morocco. I love Morocco. The people are great. The driving, there's some really fun trails and terrain. But it's really similar to the Southwest. Very similar. But what I love is the culture. I love the colors. It's very colorful. I love the hospitality, but what I really love is people remember you. So I go back and I can go into the middle of nowhere and people remember you. And also everyone is on like Facebook or WhatsApp. So you're in the middle of nowhere and someone is like, hey, you're my friend on Facebook, did you get my message? But it's that going into the middle of nowhere and running into people that have become friends along the way all across the country. When I go to Morocco, I feel like I'm going home, is how I would describe it. The other thing is the local people get really excited to see you. They really love America, and they always are the first to say that Morocco was the first country to recognize America's independence, and they're very proud of that. So they love Americans.
You have a big team on the Rebelle Rally. You were saying
one of them.
Yay! I'm proud to be one. It's awesome. How many staff?
113.
Right.
Last year.
And then you have a very supportive husband as well.
I was really independent. I met my husband. He was a water safety team when I was running a big production for Rebelle. And, I met him later in life, which is probably good because I really was extremely independent.
Right.
Probably good that I didn't get married earlier in life because I was so independent. Never wanted to, miss any trip or opportunity, which is tough, on a marriage. But I met Lair and he is incredible and he's extremely supportive. So he was the one who really encouraged me to start the Rebelle.
I love that.
Yeah, he's very patient.
How much time does he spend on the Rebelle Rally or Rebelle Rally related things?
Well, he just retired and he was really fortunate. He got to retire, I think at 53 years old. He's the Marine Safety Captain in Encinitas, California. And he did that for 34 years and, worked super hard, extremely good at what he does. He travels a lot, fortunately. He's a great surfer, into spear fishing and riding his dirt bike. I think we have a good balance. It's not too much Rebelle, and we also work to take time away from it.
What do you do in your spare time? Do you have spare time?
We don't have a lot.
I was going to say.
We do travel and we surf. What I'm finding is I'm having to book it.
Yes.
Like, okay, book that time and nothing comes in the way of that. So
he's a big support for you. They always say behind every man is a great woman, which is true, but behind every great woman is another great man, I think. Yeah. Tell me about the rest of the team and the importance of being a leader and having a big team like that. Like, how do you do that?
I think when people ask me what my favorite part of the rally is, I say it's getting to work with the staff. I really wanted to start the Rebelle because I had project managed a lot of big events and productions. Always great, always had great teams, but I'd always have people on the team that I couldn't let go of because they were best friends with the CEO or, something where it was maybe a toxic person and I could not let them go. I started the Rebelle and I said, okay, I really want to develop a great team that really is super positive and also they're going to support these women, that it's not about them. I want world-class people. I want a world-class team, but it can't be about them. It has to be about the competitors. And I believe we have that. The other thing that I've learned in the process is I started doing some of the same things I had when I was younger. I would bring in someone and say, hey, this person is going to work on your team, because the Rebelle is divided into multiple teams with leads and then points of contact within a team. And then I would say, hey, this person is going to work with you. And what I learned in the process is, wow, I'm doing the same thing that happened to me. I can vet people, but then that lead has to make that decision for who is the right person for their sub-team. And in the process, I think we've gotten to a really great place. The interesting thing about our team is there are a lot of really strong personalities, especially in our leads, that have different opinions. They have different needs. Like, let's say course management may be different from scoring, may be different from safety, and some things that they need to accomplish, but they all have to work together. Working over these years, they've worked through things and how to make it all work and remain this really strong, cohesive team, even when they disagree. And that has been really rewarding. And that has really pushed me as a leader. I have definitely grown in the process of really figuring out what is my role? What's my most important role?
Because you can get caught up
spend the time
in the minutia when you have over 100 people doing the thing. Yeah. So what did you figure out?
My job is to make it very clear what roles are and what the goals and the expectations are and the mission. And then making sure that the leads and everyone is empowered to do their job and that we have the right people and that they are truly empowered to do their job. And that is the number one goal. I also have to make sure that everything is legal and safe and funded. But if I do that, then I know that this team will get the job done. And they do.
What are you most looking forward to for this year's Rebelle Rally?
This year, I'm really excited about this year, which is great because it's year 7. And I think it's really great to be on year 7. And I'm this excited going into the rally. What I'm looking forward to right now is I go out and set the course. So I've been working on the course. It takes me about 40 days to lay out the course. And most people don't realize that. And that's not on computers. That's out on the ground. That is a lot of time. It's because we made this crazy format and it's really hard to make it happen. So laying out the course is my favorite part. It's so fun. I get to drive in all these beautiful places. I'm excited for some very special places. So every year we think about that course in terms of like, what is that view going to be when they come around the corner? What thing are they going to see that other people don't get to see? What are they going to remember the most? What is that place that's going to be the place that I can't believe we're here? And so we've got several of those this year. Our X checkpoints, we have some tough driving challenges this year.
Yeah, you're really thinking about the driver experience, every single route that you lay down. And also from a background perspective, like the photography perspective of what those shots are going to look like with the trucks and with the women too.
We do.
It's very cool.
We do. We think about that. And Jimmy's great at that too. So when we're out laying out the course, we'll come around a corner and be like, this is insane. We have to put a drone right there. You know? And then we mark it. And, we really do try to think about the whole thing. And I think that's why it takes so many people to have a world-class rally, which is our goal. You can't do that on 10 or 20 people. And it also doesn't really happen on volunteers. We have some great volunteers, but there are very few volunteers on the rally. That's because the rally is long and hard for the staff. I mean, it's long and hard for the competitors, but the competitors kind of have it easy. The staff, we work all day, we work all night, and we're having to move. We're having to get down the road. We say we're having our own rally. You've heard that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and we are. It is really thought out, every single of it, in terms of the experience.
Let's talk a little bit about the importance of the electrified designation. So that's the newest designation, right? And how does it all work with electric vehicles and charging? And what do you think the future is? Does the future look like?
The Rebelle Rally, we've always said, is a proving ground for people, products, and stock manufacturer vehicles. And it doesn't matter how they're powered, whether it's a petrol vehicle, diesel vehicle, or it's an electrified vehicle. I really wanted to start the electrified program. And in fact, we were ready to start it, but the manufacturers weren't quite ready. So it launched in 2020. We're going into our 3rd year. We launched with the Rivian R1T and the Mitsubishi plug-in hybrid. So we had a fully electric and a hybrid. This year, we're going to have quite a few vehicles. I think last year we had 7 electrified vehicles. The single biggest challenge is not the vehicle, it's how to power them in the middle of nowhere. What happened is when we decided to do the electrified program, I started contacting companies to be able to provide the remote power. And there were a number of startup companies. You saw a lot in Silicon Valley, a lot that had just gotten funding. And everybody was telling me, we probably met with like 7 different companies that they could do it. They could provide, this solution. Honestly, when it came down to it, people would just vaporize because they couldn't. And what most people don't realize is that remote rapid power is extremely hard to do. Because if you plug in, level 2 charging overnight, It's a slower charge, not that hard to do, but we have to rapid power cars out on course so they can keep going because some of our days are really long. To do that, it takes a tremendous amount of power. We produce about enough power to power about 100 homes just to power the few electric vehicles we have to get down the course. We ended up with an incredible company, Renewable Innovations, and Bob Mount, the CEO of that company, is just a legend in creating remote rapid power and silent power, whether it's for Department of Defense, Department of Energy. He's also a hydrogen expert. The way to produce power rapidly is through hydrogen. But also it's not that easy to get hydrogen. It's not that easy to transport hydrogen, although it's getting better. They came on board, and what was great is they had solution A, B, C, and D. You can imagine if you can't get power to those cars, what are you going to do? Yeah. What if your solution A fails? And so we didn't have companies that had multiple solutions. And to tell you the truth, it's getting better, but we're still in a state of that same situation. So what do I think is going to happen? Legislation is pushing us toward electrified vehicles quickly. I love driving an electric vehicle. They're fun to drive. Driving, that Rivian is amazing. I'm fortunate I get to drive a lot of electric vehicles and test them out. That Audi e-tron, it's just so fun to drive. Until the infrastructure is there, it's really challenging. Hybrid electric vehicles are great. We've got the Jeep 4xe here. It's so fun to drive when it's in just all electric mode. The torque is incredible. It's quiet. They're great. Having the hybrid is really helpful right now. We need a lot more infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. I think that extends to overlanding as well. We've talked about this before, how the Rebelle Rally is like a proving ground potentially for EVs and that transferring over to longer term trips. Yes. And the infrastructure is needed for both for sure. So it should be interesting to see how that develops over the next 5 years and 10 years down the road for sure. And we'll watch the Rebelle Rally to see, how that's evolving.
It's pretty cool because I've seen the vehicles get more out of the battery. So from the time we started, our need to remote power has lessened. We don't have to provide remote power every day because the cars can go farther. So that's encouraging. Yeah. And I think we're going to see more of, obviously, we're going to see more of that. We're going to have to see more of that. But it's fun to be at that level, early on, to have to research it and learn. It's going to be a very interesting decade, though, because of the mandates. It's 2022, and people are mandating things at 2030, and that's not that far away.
No. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming really fast.
So we're here, as I said, at the BC Overland Rally. As you can probably tell, this is a podcast in the field. But I wanted to ask you, you're doing a whole bunch of classes here on all sorts of different things. Like, what are some of the classes like?
Navigation classes. Yeah. So we're doing 2 mapping classes. One is like basic mapping. The second one is advanced mapping and plotting, which is really interesting. Compass and map skills. We're doing a GPS app class, which is super popular. We're doing a driving course. So we do our chalk talk, and then we do the technical driving course. That's a ladies only class, which is really fun. Gear selection, and that's not gears of your vehicle. It's the gear you choose, including your vehicle, knowing your vehicle. We do some really great kind of in-depth walkthroughs on people's vehicles. So we're busy. And it's too bad because there's so many great classes.
I want to go take the classes.
Yes, exactly. What is it that you love about events like the BC or Northwest Overland rallies?
Love them. It was so great to be back at Northwest because the vibe was so great. What I like about them, they're not sales events. They're really events where people connect, learn about product, talk to experts, take all these classes. But the vibe is so good. Everybody is excited. People aren't on their phones. It's not all about your next Instagram photo. I would say that the best thing is the vibe, and you can't replace that. And it has always been the case in the Northwest and the BC and the Rocky Mountain Overland rallies. And that's why we choose to come here, because the connections we make here literally last forever. I mean, I've made truly lifelong friends at these rallies. I think the motto is learn something, have fun, make friends. Yeah. Not necessarily in that order, but it is a book. It's about 8 maps that define the world. And it's so good because it's actually really explaining a lot about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. And it's about how our geography defines our history and our geopolitical situation. Whether you have oceans around you or mountains to protect you or big plains, like Russia, that's open. It's how it's literally led to wars or countries prospering. It is the most fascinating book. That was really a great one. And then the other one is called The Coddling of the American Mind. Well, it's really about that we need to toughen up. I'll just leave it at that. But it's worth reading. It's very relevant.
Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Anything we haven't touched on you'd like to share?
Just thanks for being a part of the Rebelle. And, thanks too to Overland Journal and Expedition Portal. They have literally supported us since the beginning. Scott Brady, Brian McVickers, the whole team has really been supportive of us. And, it's that kind of encouragement that, keeps you going. When people say, no, you can't do this, just think that it's really important that we get out and push ourselves, and get out and travel. It's been a tough couple of years. I've been really thankful that the Rebelle has been able to happen. It's not a spectator event, so it's been able to happen. And I think that was really important. It was really a bright spot, in a really interesting, sometimes dark time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if anybody is interested in you or the Rebelle Rally, where can they find you online?
RebelleRally.com. Rebelle. So to rebel means to defy convention, and Belle is a beautiful woman. So that's where the name comes from. It's not rebel, it's rebel. So RebelleRally.com, everything is there. Information about Rebelle Impact. We're not a nonprofit, but we do a lot of giving. Our training programs, everything about the Rebelle Rally, and our blog. So.
Oh, the final point.
Yes.
This is important. It's not a race.
It's
a
not
rally.
a race.
Yes.
Do not call it a race.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not a race for speed, but it is I'd say it's like a moving chess game, but it's about pace and efficiency.
Yes. And strategy because of the chess part. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me, Emily. I super appreciate it. And I know that the listeners will be really excited to have you on. Thank you so much to the Overland Journal podcast listeners. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.